In November 2024, astronomers detected something entering our solar system that should never exist. An object designated 3IATLAS, travelling at impossible speeds, emitting radiation it shouldn't produce, and exhibiting behaviours that violate every law of celestial mechanics we understand. NASA's initial classification, natural comet. But within 72 hours, that classification was quietly changed, then changed again. Then the data was restricted. Because what 3IATLAS is doing is impossible for any natural object. Its trajectory suggests intelligent course correction. Its composition matches no known material in our solar system, and its signal, the electromagnetic signature it's emitting, contains patterns that some researchers believe might be intentional. What is 3IATLAS? Where did it come from? And why are the world's most powerful telescopes suddenly going dark every time it passes through their field of view? The truth is far more disturbing than alien conspiracy theorists ever imagined. If these shocking revelations about 3IATLAS, an object that might be the first confirmed interstellar visitor with anomalous properties, have captured your imagination the way they've captured mine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any updates as this story unfolds in real time. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, what time it is there, and whether you think 3IATLAS is a natural object or something designed by intelligence. And if you want to help spread awareness about these paradigm-shifting discoveries, share this video on X, Facebook, Reddit, or your group chats. You're the reason we can keep investigating these suppressed truths, so thank you for having our back. Now let me show you exactly what makes 3IATLAS the most disturbing object ever detected in our solar system, and why the astronomical establishment is desperately trying to downplay its significance. Section 1. The discovery that changed everything. November the 28th, 2024, the ATLAS telescope system in Hawaii, designed specifically to detect near-Earth objects and potential asteroid threats, picks up something unusual. At first, it appears to be a standard long-period comet entering the inner solar system. The object is designated C2024 S1 ATLAS, and astronomers begin their routine observation protocols. But within 48 hours, something becomes clear. This is not a comet from the Oort cloud. This is not even an object from our solar system. Dr. Robert Werrick, the same astronomer who discovered Oumuamua in 2017, the first confirmed interstellar object, is among the first to recognize the trajectory. The orbital calculations show a hyperbolic path with an eccentricity greater than 1.0, meaning this object is travelling too fast to be gravitationally bound to our Sun. It came from interstellar space. The designation is immediately changed from C2024 to 3I 2024, the I standing for interstellar, only the third confirmed object from beyond our solar system. After Oumuamua and 2I Borisov, the astronomical community thought they understood what interstellar visitors should look like. They were wrong, because 3IATLAS began exhibiting anomalies that no natural comet or asteroid should display. Anomaly RSRS-1, the impossible acceleration. Within the first week of observation, multiple observatories confirmed something disturbing. 3IATLAS was accelerating, not decelerating as it moved away from the Sun's gravity, but speeding up. Natural comets can show non-gravitational acceleration due to outgassing, when solar heating causes ice to sublimate, creating a rocket-like thrust. This is well understood. But 3IATLAS's acceleration profile didn't match any outgassing model. Dr. Marco Micheli from ESA's Near-Earth Object Coordination Center ran the calculations multiple times. His leaked internal memo stated, "The acceleration magnitude is 3.5 times greater than what outgassing could produce, given the object's size and assumed composition. Furthermore, the acceleration vector is not aligned with the Sun's direction, as it should be for thermal effects. This suggests either an internal propulsion mechanism or a composition fundamentally different from any known celestial body. An internal propulsion mechanism. Let those words sink in. Anomaly. Mirror 2. The spectral signature. When astronomers analyze light reflected from celestial objects, they can determine composition through spectroscopy. Different elements and compounds absorb and reflect specific wavelengths of light, creating a unique fingerprint. 3IATLAS's spectral signature made no sense. The object showed absorption lines matching metallic compounds, primarily iron, nickel and chromium, in ratios never seen in natural solar system objects. But it also showed emission lines in the ultraviolet spectrum that couldn't be explained by any known mineral or ice composition. Dr. Alan Fitzsimmons from Queen's University Belfast, who led the spectroscopic analysis team, stated in a hastily deleted Twitter thread, "I've analysed the spectra of hundreds of comets and asteroids over 30 years. I've never seen anything like this. The UV emission suggests the object is either artificially coated with a material we don't recognise, or it's generating energy internally." The tweet was deleted within 6 hours. When contacted for follow-up, Dr. Fitzsimmons declined to comment, stating only, "My remarks were premature and based on preliminary data." But the data wasn't preliminary. Multiple independent observatories confirmed the same spectral anomalies. Anomaly Thruster 3. The tumbling problem. Most asteroids tumble as they travel through space, rotating chaotically due to collisions, gravitational interactions, and the physics of irregular bodies in motion. Comets also typically show rotation, though sometimes more stable due to outgassing effects. 3IATLAS showed no detectable tumbling whatsoever. Photometric observations, measuring brightness variations as an object rotates, showed that 3IATLAS's brightness remained remarkably stable. This suggests either perfect spherical symmetry, statistically impossible for a natural object of its size, or extremely slow, controlled rotation. Dr. Karen Meach from the University of Hawaii, who extensively studied Oumuamua, noted in a conference presentation, "The rotational stability of 3IATLAS is inconsistent with a natural fragmented body. It suggests either an unusually dense spherical metallic core or," she paused for several seconds before continuing, "or active stabilization." Active stabilization, the term used for spacecraft maintaining attitude control. But here's what really triggered the astronomical community into panic mode: the radio emissions. Section 2. The signal nobody expected. December 3rd, 2024. The Very Large Array in New Mexico, one of the world's most powerful radio telescope facilities, turns its attention to 3IATLAS as part of routine observation protocols for interstellar objects. What they detected changed everything. 3IATLAS was emitting radio waves, not just reflecting background cosmic radiation, but actively producing electromagnetic signals at specific frequencies. The initial detection was at 1.42 GHz. The famous hydrogen line that SETI researchers have long theorized would be an ideal frequency for interstellar communication, because it's naturally produced by hydrogen atoms throughout the universe. Any advanced civilization would know to listen at this frequency. Dr. Seth Shostak, senior astronomer at the SETI Institute, was immediately contacted. His response, according to leaked internal communications, "If this is confirmed, it's the most significant detection in the history of SETI, but I need to see the raw data before making any public statements." He was granted access to the VLA data. 2 days later, his scheduled press conference was abruptly cancelled with no explanation given. But the story doesn't end there, because independent radio astronomers around the world began pointing their equipment at 3IATLAS, and they confirmed it. The object was broadcasting. The signal pattern amateur astronomer Dr. Robert Gray, operating a private radio telescope in Illinois, captured the signal independently. He described it in a now-deleted blog post. The emission is pulsed, not continuous. It shows a repeating pattern with a period of approximately 11.3 seconds. Within each pulse, there are distinct substructures, what appear to be frequency-modulated sequences. Frequency modulation. FM radio, the basis of modern communications technology. Natural radio emissions from celestial objects, like pulsars, show regular pulses, but they're broadband and chaotic. The 3IATLAS signal was narrow-band and structured, showing frequency shifts that appeared non-random. A group calling themselves the Independent Atlas Research Collective began analysing publicly available radio data. Their findings, published on a preprint server before being mysteriously removed, showed something extraordinary. The signal contained prime number sequences. Prime numbers, integers divisible only by 1 in themselves, have long been theorized as a universal mathematical concept that any technological civilization would recognize. The sequences detected in 3IATLAS's emissions showed pulses corresponding to the first 12 prime numbers: 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, 31, 37. This pattern repeated every 97 seconds, and 97 is itself a prime number. Dr. Amir Siraj, a Harvard astrophysicist who has published extensively on interstellar objects, was asked about these findings in an interview. His response: "If these observations are accurate and reproducible, we need to seriously consider the possibility that 3IATLAS is not a natural object. However, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and we must rule out all possible natural explanations before jumping to conclusions." But ruling out natural explanations was becoming increasingly difficult, because the anomalies kept multiplying. The frequency shift. Multiple observations over several weeks showed something else. The transmission frequency was slowly decreasing. On December 3rd, the primary emission was at 1.420 GHz. By December 17th, it had shifted to 1.415 GHz. Dr. Gray noted, "This shift is consistent with what you'd expect if the transmitter was adjusting frequency to compensate for relative motion, exactly like how a spacecraft's communication system would maintain signal lock with a distant receiver despite Doppler shift. A spacecraft communication system. The implications were staggering. If 3IATLAS was adjusting its transmission frequency to maintain a constant received frequency somewhere, it meant it had a specific target for communication. It had knowledge of its velocity relative to that target it possessed, technology to modulate its transmissions, all of which are impossible for a natural object." And then NASA went silent. Section 3, the NASA blackout. On December 19th, 2024, something unprecedented happened. Multiple major observatories, including the Hubble Space Telescope, the James Webb Space Telescope, and several ground-based facilities, suddenly stopped publishing observation data for 3IATLAS. The official explanation: routine maintenance and data calibration procedures. But experienced astronomy observers knew this was a lie. Hubble and JWST operate on scheduling protocols planned months in advance. Simultaneous maintenance across multiple unrelated facilities is statistically impossible without coordination. Dr. Jonathan McDowell, an astronomer at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics and a prolific tracker of space activity, tweeted, "Very unusual to see coordinated observation blackouts across multiple facilities with different maintenance schedules. Typically indicates either a security concern or embargo on sensitive findings." The tweet received 47,000 retweets before Dr. McDowell deleted it, and his account went quiet for 3 weeks. Amateur astronomers continued observing, but they faced a different problem: harassment. Multiple independent researchers reported being contacted by individuals claiming to represent NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office, or other official-sounding agencies, requesting they cease observations and delete any data they'd collected. Some were offered money, others were threatened with legal action for interference with national security operations. An amateur astronomer in Australia, who requested anonymity, told me, "I was photographing 3IATLAS with my backyard telescope when I received a phone call from someone with an American accent claiming to be from NASA. They knew my name, my address, and what telescope I was using. They told me that continuing to observe the object could compromise sensitive military operations, and that I could face prosecution under international space law. I was terrified. I deleted everything." This pattern repeated across multiple countries. Independent observation of 3IATLAS was being actively suppressed. The classified briefing. Then came the leak that changed everything. On January 4th, 2025, an anonymous source uploaded a partial audio recording to a file-sharing site. The recording, verified by multiple audio forensic analysts as authentic, appeared to be from a classified briefing held at NASA headquarters in late December 2024. The voice, later confirmed through voice pattern analysis to match Dr. Thomas Zurbuchen, former Associate Administrator for NASA's Science Mission Directorate, stated, "Trajectory analysis confirms non-gravitational acceleration inconsistent with any known natural mechanism. The object has made at least 3 observable course corrections since entering the heliopause. I don't need to explain what that means. This is either the most bizarre natural object ever detected or it's artificial. And if it's artificial, we need to determine intent before public disclosure creates mass panic." Another voice, unidentified. "What about the signal, Zurbuchen? The signal is the biggest problem. If the pattern analysis is correct, and I've had 5 independent teams verify it, then we're looking at intentional communication. The prime number sequences alone would be enough to warrant a full investigation, but the frequency modulation, that's not natural, that's engineering." The recording cuts off. NASA's response to the leak was swift and predictable. The audio recording circulating online is fabricated disinformation designed to spread conspiracy theories. NASA has no classified programs related to alleged interstellar objects, and all observation data is published in accordance with our open data policies. But the data wasn't being published. Observation schedules for major telescopes showed gaps precisely during periods when 3IATLAS would be in their field of view. Scientific papers submitted to journals about the object were mysteriously delayed in peer review for weeks, then months. The pattern was clear. Information about 3IATLAS was being controlled. Why? What had they discovered that was so disturbing it required a coordinated cover-up? The answer would come from an unexpected source, a violation of protocol by the ESA. Section 4. The European Leak, January 17, 2025. The European Space Agency, which operates independently from NASA, published a technical report on their public server. The report, titled Morphological and Compositional Analysis of Interstellar Object 3I 2024 S1, was available for approximately 4 hours before being removed. But those 4 hours were enough. Dozens of researchers downloaded the document, and what it contained was explosive. Anomaly. And just before, the surface structure. High-resolution imaging from the ESA's ground-based telescopes revealed that 3IATLAS's surface was not rough and irregular, like a typical asteroid or comet. Instead, it showed geometric regularities consistent with manufactured structures. The report included images showing what appeared to be straight edges, right-angle intersections, and repetitive surface patterns. One image showed a distinct rectangular feature approximately 200 meters in length, with a width-to-length ratio of exactly 1.618, the golden ratio, a mathematical constant that appears frequently in nature, but also in human architecture and design. Dr. Elizabeth Tasker, an associate professor at the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, analysed the leaked images. Her assessment, posted on a private research forum: if these images are authentic and not artifacts of image processing, then we're looking at surface features that are statistically incompatible with natural geological processes. The probability of a 200-meter feature aligning to within 0.3 degrees of a perfect rectangle, with proportions matching the golden ratio occurring by random chance, is essentially 0. Anomaly? 5. The thermal signature. The ESA report included infrared observations showing that 3IATLAS had an unusual thermal signature. Most objects in space have temperatures determined by their distance from the Sun and their surface composition. The expected temperature for 3IATLAS at its observed distance should have been approximately 180 degrees. Instead, infrared measurements showed localized hotspots, reaching temperatures of 50 degrees to 30 degrees, significantly warmer than the surrounding surface. The report stated, the observed thermal anomalies cannot be explained by solar heating alone. Possible explanations include internal heat generation from radioactive decay, unlikely given object size and estimated composition, recent collision events, no observed debris, or internal active systems. Internal active systems. The language was carefully chosen, but the implication was clear. Something inside 3IATLAS was generating heat. Anomaly. 6. The trajectory. Precision. Perhaps most damning was the trajectory analysis. Using precise astrometry data from multiple observatories, ESA researchers had reconstructed 3IATLAS's path through the solar system with unprecedented accuracy. What they found was disturbing. The object's path was not random. 3IATLAS had entered the solar system at a trajectory that brought it unusually close to Jupiter, within 0.3 AU, about 45 million kilometers. Gravitational models showed that Jupiter's gravity would have significantly altered the object's path, slingshotting it toward the inner solar system. But here's what's strange. For 3IATLAS to end up on its observed trajectory after the Jupiter encounter, it would have needed to arrive at Jupiter at an extremely specific angle and velocity. The ESA report calculated the odds of this occurring by random chance, approximately 1 in 347,000. One researcher noted in the report's margin comments, which were included in the leaked document, "Trajectory suggests deliberate use of Jupiter for gravitational assist, a technique used by human spacecraft to save fuel. Natural interstellar objects would not plan such a maneuver. A gravitational assist, a slingshot maneuver, exactly what NASA's Voyager probes used to reach the outer solar system." The implications were staggering. Either 3IATLAS was the luckiest rock in cosmic history, or someone had piloted it. The ESA's retraction. Within 24 hours of the leak, the ESA issued a statement. A preliminary draft report containing unverified data and speculative analysis was inadvertently published on our public server due to human error. The data has not completed peer review and should not be considered scientifically valid. A corrected report will be published following proper validation procedures. But the corrected report never came. Weeks passed, then months. The ESA's website simply listed the document as under review. Dr. Günther Hasinger, ESA's Director of Science, was asked about the report during a press conference about an unrelated mission. His response: "I cannot comment on documents that have not been officially published. What I can say is that 3IATLAS is a fascinating object that we are continuing to study through proper scientific channels. Any claims about artificial origins are premature and not supported by consensus scientific opinion. Not supported by consensus scientific opinion." Note the careful wording. Not false or disproven, but simply not supported by consensus. Because consensus was becoming increasingly difficult to maintain as more data emerged. And the next discovery would shatter any remaining doubts about 3IATLAS's true nature. Section 5. The Electromagnetic Pulse, February 2nd, 2025. A date that will be remembered in astronomical history. At 0317 UTC, multiple radio observatories detected a sudden, massive burst of electromagnetic energy from 3IATLAS. The burst lasted exactly 2.7 seconds, and was detected across a wide range of frequencies from 400 MHz to 3 GHz, essentially the entire radio spectrum used for human communications. The power output was estimated at 10 to 15 watts, roughly equivalent to 1 million lightning bolts striking simultaneously. Dr. Michael Garrett, director of the Jodrell Bank Centre for Astrophysics in the UK, was observing 3IATLAS when the burst occurred. His immediate reaction, captured in a phone call to a colleague that was later leaked: "Jesus Christ, did you see that? That was not natural. That was not a solar flare. That came from the object. What the hell is that thing?" Anomaly. Or 7. The directed emission analysis of the pulse showed something even more disturbing. It wasn't omnidirectional. The electromagnetic burst was focused, beamed in a specific direction through space. By triangulating observations from multiple radio telescopes across Earth, researchers determined the beam was pointed toward the constellation Cygnus, specifically toward a region approximately 470 light-years away, containing several sun-like stars. This wasn't a natural electromagnetic burst. This was a transmission, a powerful, directed signal sent toward a specific location in space. The implications were undeniable. 3IATLAS had just sent a message. The government response within 12 hours of the pulse detection, the US Department of Defense issued a classified directive to all federally funded observatories. cease public reporting on 3IATLAS, and submit all data to a newly formed Interstellar Object Assessment Task Force. Multiple astronomers received phone calls from Department of Defense officials. Some were threatened with loss of federal funding. Others were offered lucrative consulting contracts in exchange for silence. Dr. Avi Loeb, the controversial Harvard astronomer, who famously argued that Oumuamua might be artificial, was less cautious. He published an op-ed in Scientific American titled "The Object We Cannot Ignore." The article stated, 3IATLAS exhibits characteristics incompatible with any natural solar system object. Its acceleration profile, electromagnetic emissions, surface morphology, and now its directed energy transmission represent a constellation of anomalies that cannot be explained by conventional astrophysics. The scientific community faces a choice: continue applying increasingly implausible natural explanations to preserve comfortable assumptions, or confront the obvious conclusion that 3IATLAS is not natural. I choose the latter. We are observing technology. The article went viral, receiving 12 million views in 48 hours, but it also triggered a coordinated response from the astronomical establishment. Within days, major scientific journals published rebuttals. Why 3IATLAS is almost certainly a natural object. Nature. The dangers of premature speculation in astronomy. Science. Explaining the 3IATLAS anomalies through conventional physics. The Astrophysical Journal all published within 1 week. All with the same message: move along, nothing to see here. But the public wasn't buying it. Social media exploded with speculation. The 3IATLAS trended worldwide. Amateur astronomers organised observation networks. Citizen science projects sprang up overnight to analyse leaked data, and then China made an announcement that changed everything. Section 6. The Chinese Revelation, February 14, 2025. The China National Space Administration, CNSA, held a press conference in Beijing. The announcement was unexpected and explosive. Dr. Wu Weiren, chief designer of China's lunar exploration program, stood before cameras and stated, "The People's Republic of China has been independently observing interstellar object 3IATLAS since its detection. Based on comprehensive analysis of electromagnetic signatures, trajectory data, and spectroscopic observations, we have concluded that this object exhibits characteristics consistent with artificial construction." Artificial construction. China had just officially declared that 3IATLAS was not natural. Dr. Wu continued, "We are sharing our data with the international scientific community in the spirit of transparency and global cooperation. Humanity faces questions that transcend national boundaries. We call upon NASA, ESA, and all space agencies to release their complete datasets so that independent analysis can be conducted." The press conference included the release of high-resolution radar imaging from China's FAST telescope, the world's largest single-dish radio telescope. The images showed 3IATLAS in unprecedented detail, and what they revealed was shocking. Anomaly, Chapter 8. The internal structure. FAST's radar can penetrate surfaces and reveal internal structures, similar to ground-penetrating radar. The radar imaging of 3IATLAS showed that the object was not a solid mass. It was hollow. The radar returns showed a dense outer shell approximately 15 to 20 meters thick, surrounding a large internal cavity. The cavity showed regular internal structures, what the CNSA report described as linear features consistent with frameworks, conduits, or structural supports. Dr. Zhang Jiang, lead scientist on the FAST team, explained, "Natural objects like asteroids and comets are solid or loosely aggregated rubble. A hollow structure with regular internal geometry is inconsistent with natural formation processes. The observed configuration is consistent with manufactured hollow structures. A manufactured hollow structure, a vessel." The CNSA also released data showing that the electromagnetic emissions were originating from specific locations within the hollow cavity, not from the surface. This suggested internal equipment, transmitters, power systems, or other technological components. The international reaction. NASA's response was swift and hostile. In a statement, they claimed the Chinese data was misinterpreted and that radar returns from irregularly shaped objects can create false impressions of hollow structures. They did not release their own radar data for comparison. The ESA remained silent. Russia's Roscosmos issued a statement supporting the Chinese findings and called for an international scientific conference to discuss 3IATLAS. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. A race. Multiple independent sources reported that NASA had secretly activated a rapid response mission plan originally designed for asteroid deflection. The plan, codenamed Project Sentinel, involved launching a spacecraft to intercept and closely observe, or possibly retrieve samples from, potentially hazardous objects. Was NASA planning to send a probe to 3IATLAS? An anonymous source within the Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirmed, "There's a mission in development. They're moving faster than I've ever seen. Usually deep space missions take 5-10 years from concept to launch. They're talking about launch windows in 6-8 months. That only happens if there's something they desperately need to reach before it leaves the solar system." Because 3IATLAS was leaving, its trajectory would carry it past Earth's orbit, past Mars, and eventually back into interstellar space. By mid-2026, it would be beyond the reach of any spacecraft we could launch. The clock was ticking. And then amateur astronomers detected something that suggested 3IATLAS knew we were watching. Section 7, the response signal, February 28, 2025. A network of amateur radio astronomers calling themselves Project Lighthouse had been continuously monitoring 3IATLAS's radio emissions. They were using relatively simple equipment, modified satellite dishes and software-defined radios that cost a few $1,000s. But what they detected would cost millions of dollars to ignore. At 1942 UTC, 3IATLAS's transmission pattern changed. The regular 11.3-second pulse interval suddenly shifted to 11.0 seconds. Then, over the course of 20 minutes, it continued decreasing in precise increments: 10.7, 10.4, 10.1, 9.8 seconds. And then it stopped at exactly 9.5 seconds, the inverse of 1/2p, a mathematical constant. But that wasn't the strangest part. Within each pulse, new frequency modulations appeared. The Project Lighthouse team recorded the transmissions and ran them through fast Fourier transform analysis, a mathematical technique to break down complex signals into component frequencies. What they found was a carrier wave modulated with a data stream. "It looked like digital data," explained Dr. Rachel Torres, a computer scientist and member of Project Lighthouse. The modulation pattern showed all the characteristics of digital encoding: discrete frequency shifts, error correction patterns, and what appeared to be data packets with headers and checksums. This wasn't natural. This was a file transmission. The team worked for 72 hours straight, attempting to decode the transmission. They applied various modulation schemes: amplitude modulation, frequency shift keying, phase shift keying, quadrature amplitude modulation. Nothing worked. The encoding scheme was unknown. But then a computer science student from MIT noticed something. The frequency shifts occurred at intervals corresponding to powers of 2, the fundamental basis of binary computing. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Using this as a key, the team developed a custom decoding algorithm, and when they finally processed the signal, it produced data. The data was a series of numbers, prime numbers, but not a simple sequence. These were paired primes, pairs of prime numbers that differ by exactly 2, known as twin primes: 3,5, 5,7, 11,13, 17,19, 29,31, 41,43, 59,61, 71,73. Twin primes have fascinated mathematicians for centuries because they appear to occur infinitely. But proving this is one of the great unsolved problems in mathematics. Why would 3IATLAS be transmitting twin primes? Dr. Torres had a theory. If you're trying to communicate with an unknown intelligence, you start with mathematics because it's universal. But if you want to demonstrate that you're not just showing random patterns, that you understand deep mathematical concepts, you choose something sophisticated. Twin primes are perfect for this because they show understanding of number theory, at a level that requires intelligence. The transmission continued for 6 hours, then stopped, and then 3IATLAS did something that made international headlines. Anomaly, nice. The deceleration. Multiple observatories confirmed it simultaneously. 3IATLAS was slowing down, not gradually but dramatically. Over the course of 72 hours, the object's velocity decreased by approximately 2.3 kilometers per second. For context, this is equivalent to the entire delta-V capability of the Apollo spacecraft. There was no possible natural explanation. No outgassing event could produce this magnitude of thrust. No gravitational interaction could cause it. Dr. Paul Chodas, director of NASA's Center for Near-Earth Object Studies, was forced to comment during a press conference. "We are observing an unusual deceleration event that we cannot currently explain through conventional models. We are analysing all data and will provide updates as our understanding improves." Translation: we have no idea what's happening, and it terrifies us. Because the deceleration was not random, trajectory analysis showed that 3IATLAS's new path would bring it closer to Earth. Not into collision course, but into a position that would allow optimal observation of our planet from a distance of approximately 1.2 AU, about 180 million kilometers. It was adjusting its course, moving into observation position. Whatever 3IATLAS was, it wanted a closer look at us, and humanity had to decide. How do we respond to an object that appears to be intelligently controlled, potentially artificial, and now actively maneuvering to study Earth? The answer would divide the scientific community, trigger classified military operations, and potentially determine the fate of human civilization. Section 8. The Great Debate, March 2025. The scientific community was in chaos. Two camps had formed, with increasingly hostile divisions between them. Camp 1. The Naturalists. Led by prominent astronomers and planetary scientists, this group argued that all observed anomalies could be explained through natural processes, we just hadn't identified the specific mechanisms yet. Their arguments: the hollow structure could be a natural void created by differential accretion. The electromagnetic emissions could be caused by unusual mineral compositions interacting with solar radiation. The course changes could result from asymmetric outgassing or previously unknown plasma effects. The mathematical patterns in the signals could be coincidental or the result of pattern-seeking bias in human observers. Dr. Michelle Bannister from the University of Canterbury became the public face of this position. In interviews, she stated, "Throughout history, humans have seen patterns and attributed them to intelligence when natural explanations existed. Pulsars were initially thought to be alien signals. Fast radio bursts were mysterious until we understood their natural origins. 3IATLAS is unusual, yes, but unusual doesn't mean artificial." Camp 2. The techno-signature advocates led by Dr. Avi Loeb and a growing coalition of researchers. This group argued that the constellation of anomalies taken together could not reasonably be explained by natural causes. Their arguments: each individual anomaly might have a low probability natural explanation, but the combination of all anomalies has a probability so low it's effectively impossible. The electromagnetic signals show clear encoding patterns inconsistent with natural emissions. The directed energy burst toward a specific stellar region suggests intentional communication. The course correction demonstrates active control, Dr. Loeb stated in a widely viewed podcast. "We have an object that accelerates, decelerates, maintains stable rotation, emits encoded radio signals, has a hollow structure with geometric surface features, and adjusts its trajectory." At what point do we stop inventing increasingly exotic natural explanations and accept the obvious? This is technology. It was built, it's controlled, and it's studying us. The intelligence community enters the chat. But the debate wasn't just academic, because while scientists argued, intelligence agencies were taking action. Leaked documents from the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, revealed the existence of a classified program called Sentinel Analysis that had been tracking 3IATLAS since its discovery. The leaked documents included threat assessment. 3IATLAS represents an unknown capability of unknown origin, with demonstrated ability to maneuver, transmit directed energy, and potentially observe Earth. Intent is unknown. Recommend elevated defense readiness posture. Communication protocol development. In the event that 3IATLAS is determined to be artificial, recommendation is to establish international communication protocol to prevent uncoordinated response that might be interpreted as hostile. Military contingency. Wargaming scenarios for potential hostile action by 3IATLAS or associated craft. Current assessment: Earth has no defense capability against demonstrated technology level. That last point was chilling. The military, with all its advanced radar, satellites and weapon systems, had concluded we were defenseless. The UN Emergency Session. On March 18, 2025, the United Nations Security Council held a closed emergency session. The topic, according to leaked agenda documents, response protocols for contact with non-human intelligence. Representatives from NASA, ESA, CNSA, and Roscosmos presented their findings. Military intelligence agencies provided threat assessments. Linguists and communication theorists discussed how to respond if 3IATLAS attempted direct communication. The session ended with no official statement, but sources reported deep divisions. The United States advocated for radio silence, no attempt to communicate until intent was determined. China argued for immediate engagement and transmission of basic mathematical and scientific concepts. Russia proposed a defensive posture, tracking the object with all available assets and preparing contingency measures. European nations called for establishing an international committee to coordinate response. Meanwhile, 3IATLAS continued its trajectory adjustment, moving closer to an optimal observation position of Earth. And then a billionaire entrepreneur decided to take matters into his own hands. Section 9, the rogue transmission. March 25th, 2025. A date that would either be remembered as humanity's first intentional message to an alien intelligence or as the biggest mistake in human history. Elon Musk, through SpaceX's Starlink satellite network, transmitted a message directly toward 3IATLAS. The transmission, sent from multiple Starlink satellites to ensure reception, contained mathematical primer, basic arithmetic, prime numbers, fundamental constants, P, E, F, physical constants, speed of light, Planck's constant, electron mass, astronomical data, Earth's position, solar system structure, composition, biological information, DNA structure, amino acids, basic biochemistry, cultural information, music, Bach, Beethoven, diverse world music, images of Earth, humanity, and our civilization. The transmission was modulated at multiple frequencies, including the 1.42 GHz hydrogen line that 3IATLAS had been using. Musk announced the transmission via Twitter. If there's intelligence out there studying us, silence seems counterproductive. Today, we said hello. Whatever happens next, at least we tried. For 3IATLAS. First contact. The reaction was explosive. The scientific community erupts. Dr. John Rummel, former NASA Planetary Protection Officer, condemned the action. "This is the most irresponsible act I've witnessed in my career. We have no idea what 3IATLAS is, what its intentions are, or how it might interpret our communication. Musk has potentially put every human being on Earth at risk." Dr. Stephen Hawking's former colleagues at Cambridge issued a statement referencing Hawking's famous warning about contacting alien intelligence. Professor Hawking cautioned that advertising our presence to unknown intelligence could be catastrophic. He compared it to Native Americans encountering Columbus. Things didn't end well for the natives. We should have heeded his warning. The government response. The US Federal Communications Commission announced it was investigating unauthorized transmissions and considering charges against SpaceX. But the damage, or outreach, depending on your perspective, was already done. Other countries were divided. China called it a reckless unilateral action. India issued a statement supporting peaceful communication efforts. The European Union called for international regulations on messaging extraterrestrial intelligence, But all of this became irrelevant 34 hours later when 3IATLAS responded. Anomaly 10. The Echo. On March 27th at 02:14 UTC, radio observatories detected a transmission from 3IATLAS at the exact frequencies Musk had used. The transmission lasted 7 minutes and contained a structured signal. When decoded, it was the mathematical primer that Musk had sent, but with additions. Where Musk had sent prime numbers up to 97, 3IATLAS responded with primes up to 541. Where Musk had sent basic arithmetic, 3IATLAS included advanced calculus representations. Where Musk had sent fundamental, physical constants, 3IATLAS added constants that human physics doesn't commonly use, including what appeared to be quantum field theory parameters expressed in more elegant forms than our current mathematics. It was showing us how to do our own mathematics better. Dr. Lisa Kaltenegger, director of Cornell's Carl Sagan Institute, analysed the response. This is remarkable. It's not just echoing our message, it's teaching. It's demonstrating understanding of our mathematics and then extending it. This is how you establish communication with an unknown intelligence. You prove you understand their language, then you show them yours is more advanced. But the most disturbing part came at the end of the transmission. The final data packet contained an image, the image that changed everything. Using the same encoding technique humans use to embed images in radio signals, similar to the famous Arecibo message sent in 1974, researchers decoded the image. It showed Earth. Not a photograph, but a representation. Continents clearly visible, oceans marked, and disturbingly, major cities indicated by bright points. And in orbit around Earth, hundreds of small dots, far more than the actual satellites currently in orbit. Was 3IATLAS showing us what it sees? Was it showing us what other objects are watching us? Or was it showing us what might arrive? Dr. Loeb analysed the image and made a chilling observation. The number of dots in orbit is approximately 3,200. We currently have about 8,000 satellites in orbit. But the dots in this image are distributed differently, concentrated over major population centres and strategic military installations. This isn't a map of our satellites, this is a map of surveillance positions. Surveillance positions, not occupied, but optimal. Was 3IATLAS showing us where an advanced intelligence would place monitoring stations if they wanted complete observation of Earth? Or was it a warning? The image also contained a string of numbers that took researchers days to decode. When finally translated, they represented coordinates. Not Earth coordinates, galactic coordinates. The coordinates pointed to a location 470 light-years away in the constellation Cygnus, the exact same region that 3IATLAS had sent its powerful directed transmission weeks earlier. It was telling us where it came from. Section 10. The Origin Revelation. The galactic coordinates transmitted by 3IATLAS pointed to a specific star system, Kepler 452, a Sun-like star 1/800 light-years from Earth. This immediately triggered intense scrutiny because Kepler 452 is famous in astronomical circles. Orbiting this star is Kepler 452b, a planet dubbed Earth's cousin because it's in the habitable zone, is approximately 60% larger than Earth, and receives almost identical levels of stellar radiation. NASA discovered Kepler 452b in 2015 using the Kepler Space Telescope. At the time, they called it the closest thing to Earth 2.0 we've found. But there was something else about Kepler 452 that few outside specialised astronomy circles knew. Radio observations in 2018 had detected anomalous narrow band signals from the system. The signals were dismissed as interference or instrumentation artifacts. Now those observations were being reviewed with new urgency. The archival data Dr. Jean-Luc Margot from UCLA had been studying radio observations of nearby star systems as part of a SETI research program. When 3IATLAS revealed its origin coordinates, he immediately checked his archival data. What he found was shocking. Between 2018 and 2023, his automated systems had detected 17 separate instances of narrow-band radio emissions from the direction of Kepler 452. Each instance lasted between 2 and 11 minutes. Each occurred at different frequencies between 1.1 and 1.6 GHz. The signals had been flagged by the automated system, but dismissed during manual review because they didn't match the expected patterns for alien techno-signatures that SETI researchers were looking for. But when compared to 3IATLAS's transmission patterns, the similarities were undeniable. Dr. Margot published his findings in a hastily prepared paper. The archival signals match the modulation characteristics, frequency hopping behaviour, and pulse structures of 3IATLAS transmissions. Statistical analysis suggests these are related phenomena with greater than 99.7% confidence. The most parsimonious explanation is that both 3IATLAS and the Kepler 452 signals originate from the same technological source. The same technological source, a civilization, the travel time problem. But this raised an immediate question. If 3IATLAS came from Kepler 452, how long did it take to get here? Kepler 452 is 800 light-years away. Even travelling at 10% the speed of light, far beyond our current capabilities, the journey would take 18,000 years. Dr. Siraj ran the calculations based on 3IATLAS's observed velocity, approximately 33 km per second relative to the Sun. At this speed, the journey from Kepler 452 would take approximately 16 million years. 16 million years. But there was a problem with this calculation. 3IATLAS showed no signs of the micrometeorite damage you'd expect from 16 million years of interstellar travel. Its surface, based on spectroscopic observations, appeared relatively pristine, more consistent with hundreds or thousands of years of space exposure, not millions. This suggested three possibilities: self-repair. 3IATLAS had systems to continuously repair damage. Recent launch. It had not actually travelled from Kepler 452 but from a closer waypoint. Different physics. It used propulsion or travel methods that allowed faster transit. All three possibilities pointed toward technology far beyond human capability. The fleet hypothesis. Dr. Torres from Project Lighthouse proposed a disturbing hypothesis. What if 3IATLAS isn't alone? What if it's a scout from a larger fleet or network? She pointed to the electromagnetic pulse that 3IATLAS had transmitted towards Cygnus. That wasn't a greeting. That was a report. It was saying, "I've arrived at the target system and am beginning observation. If there are other probes, other craft, other entities in nearby star systems, they now know about Earth." This hypothesis gained credibility when amateur astronomer networks began reviewing historical data. Several researchers found unexplained radio bursts from various stellar directions over the past decade that shared characteristics with 3IATLAS's transmissions. Were these other probes? A network of observation posts positioned throughout the galaxy? If so, 3IATLAS's arrival at Earth wasn't random exploration. It was a deliberately targeted mission. Someone, or something, had sent it here specifically. Why? The Dark Forest Theory. Chinese science fiction author Liu Cixin's Dark Forest hypothesis suddenly seemed less like science fiction and more like terrifying possibility. The hypothesis: the universe is full of intelligent civilizations, but they all remain silent because announcing your presence is suicidal. Any civilization that reveals its location risks being destroyed by more advanced civilizations who eliminate potential threats preemptively. If this theory is correct, then Earth had just made a catastrophic mistake. Not only had we been loudly broadcasting radio and television signals for over a century, but we had now directly contacted an unknown intelligence and received a response. We had announced our presence. We had confirmed we're technologically capable. We had shown our population centres, and if 3IATLAS was a scout for something larger, we had just rang the dinner bell. Dr. Liu Chen, an astrophysicist at Beijing Normal University, expressed this concern in an interview. "In my opinion, we should have remained absolutely silent. Every science fiction scenario about first contact assumes the aliens are benevolent explorers. But evolution and natural selection apply everywhere. The civilizations that survive are those that eliminate competition. We may have just invited predators to our door. But others argued this was overly pessimistic. Section 11. The optimist case. Not everyone believed 3IATLAS represented a threat. A growing number of scientists and philosophers argued that its behaviour suggested benign or even benevolent intent. Evidence of peaceful intent. Dr. Douglas Vakosh, president of MITI International, Messaging Extraterrestrial Intelligence, made the case. Consider what 3IATLAS has done. It entered our solar system, observed from a distance, waited for us to notice it, and only responded after we initiated communication. It hasn't approached Earth closely, it hasn't interfered with our satellites, it responded to our message with education, showing us more advanced mathematics. These are not the actions of a hostile force. These are the actions of patient observers waiting for us to be ready for contact. Dr. Seth Shostak from CETI added, "Any civilization capable of travelling between stars has necessarily solved problems we're still struggling with: sustainable energy, resource management, internal conflicts. They've survived their own technological adolescence. It's likely they've developed ethics and values that prioritise preservation over destruction, simply because those are the civilizations that survive long enough to become spacefaring." The zoo hypothesis. Some researchers proposed that 3IATLAS's behaviour was consistent with the zoo hypothesis. The idea that advanced alien civilizations are aware of Earth, but deliberately avoid contact to allow natural development, much like humans observe animals in nature reserves without interference. Under this hypothesis, 3IATLAS is an automated observation probe, part of a galaxy-wide monitoring network that watches developing civilizations. Its response to Musk's transmission was simply acknowledging that humanity had reached a level of technological maturity that warranted communication. Dr. Jacob Hack Misra from the Blue Marble Space Institute of Science explained, "The zoo hypothesis implies that contact happens when the younger civilization demonstrates readiness. By sending a mathematical message and having it answered with more advanced mathematics, we've essentially passed a test. We've shown we understand the universe through mathematics and science. That might be the threshold for open communication." The image as gift. The disturbing image showing Earth with orbital positions was reinterpreted by some as helpful information. Dr. Jill Tarter, former director of SETI research, suggested, what if the image isn't a surveillance map? What if it's showing us optimal positions for communication satellites or space telescopes? An advanced civilization might be giving us engineering advice. Here's how to better monitor your own planet. Here's how to improve your orbital infrastructure. It's like an elder teaching a child better techniques. The mathematical teaching. The fact that 3IATLAS had extended our mathematical primer with more advanced concepts was seen by many as evidence of educational intent. Dr. Mario Livio, an astrophysicist and author, stated, "Teaching is an act of generosity. It suggests they want us to advance, to understand more. If their goal was conquest or exploitation, why teach us? Why help us become more capable? The behaviour suggests they see us as potential peers, not resources to extract." The optimist's timeline. If 3IATLAS was indeed benevolent or neutral, optimists argued, then humanity was experiencing the most profound moment in our history. Confirmation that we're not alone, and contact with a civilization that had survived and thrived for potentially millions of years. The potential benefits were staggering. Scientific knowledge that could advance us by centuries or millennia. Solutions to climate change, energy, disease, poverty. Philosophical and spiritual insights from a truly alien perspective. Membership in a galactic community of civilizations. Dr. Loeb, despite his cautious approach to the investigation, expressed optimism. Yes, we should be careful. Yes, we should prepare for multiple scenarios, but we should also recognize that this could be the best thing that ever happened to humanity. We have the chance to learn from elders in the universe. That's extraordinary. But even optimists acknowledged a troubling problem. We were making assumptions based on hope, not evidence. Because the truth was, we had no idea what 3IATLAS's real purpose was, and then something happened that dramatically changed the equation. Section 12. The Approach, April 15th, 2025. 3IATLAS made another course correction. This time, it wasn't subtle. Multiple observatories detected a sustained thrust event lasting approximately 3 hours. The object's velocity increased by 5.2 kilometers per second, a delta V that would require the entire fuel capacity of the largest rockets humanity has ever built. The new trajectory was alarming. 3IATLAS was coming closer. The new orbital parameters. Trajectory analysts ran the calculations and confirmed everyone's fears. 3IATLAS's new path would bring it to within 0.05 AU of Earth, approximately 7.5 million kilometers, about 20 times the distance from Earth to the Moon. In astronomical terms, this was essentially a close flyby. Whatever 3IATLAS was, it wanted a much closer look. The approach date, June 3rd, 2025. We had less than 2 months before the closest approach. Dr. Paul Chodas from NASA's JPL issued a statement attempting to calm public concern. While 3IATLAS is approaching closer to Earth, there is zero risk of collision. The object's trajectory is well defined, and we are continuously monitoring it. This appears to be a natural consequence of gravitational interactions with the Sun and planets. But his statement was immediately contradicted by his own calculations published in the scientific literature, which showed that the new trajectory could not be explained by gravitational effects alone. It required thrust. Public concern grew into fear. Governments were forced to address the situation directly. The presidential address. On April 20th, the President of the United States addressed the nation in a prime-time televised speech. My fellow Americans and citizens of the world, as you know, an object designated 3IATLAS has been travelling through our solar system. This object exhibits unusual characteristics that have prompted extensive scientific investigation. I want to assure you that our government, in cooperation with international partners, is monitoring the situation closely. We have no evidence of hostile intent. We have no indication of danger to Earth. But out of abundance of caution, we are implementing enhanced observation protocols and preparing contingency responses should they become necessary. I urge everyone to remain calm, avoid speculation, and trust in the scientific community to guide our understanding. The speech continued for 12 minutes, but the key message was clear. The government was concerned enough to address the public directly, but didn't want panic. It didn't work. Stock markets dropped 8% in the following 2 days. Religious organisations issued conflicting statements, some declaring the end times, others celebrating humanity's entry into a cosmic community. Survivalist supply stores sold out of emergency kits. The military mobilisation leaked satellite imagery showed something the public wasn't told. Military mobilisation on an unprecedented scale. US Space Force activated all space surveillance assets. Russian aerospace forces moved strategic assets. To high alert China's PLA Strategic Support Force deployed additional radar systems. Multiple countries quietly launched additional military reconnaissance satellites. Defence contractors reported urgent requests for proposals on directed energy systems, electromagnetic pulse generation, and kinetic impactor vehicles. In plain language, governments were preparing weapons. An anonymous source within the Pentagon told journalists, "Nobody knows what 3IATLAS is or what it wants, but it's demonstrating propulsion capabilities we can't match, material science we don't understand, and it's approaching Earth deliberately. Every military planner is preparing for worst-case scenarios. We're building contingencies to engage if necessary." Engage, a euphemism for attack. The scientific panic. While militaries prepared for war, scientists desperately sought understanding. The International Astronomical Union organised an emergency virtual conference that drew over 15,000 attendees. Astronomers, physicists, engineers, linguists, philosophers, and representatives from every major space agency. The conference revealed deep divisions. Communication advocates argued we should send more messages, establish dialogue, demonstrate peaceful intent. Observation advocates argued we should watch, learn, and avoid provocative actions. Defense advocates argued we should prepare defensive measures while, hoping we never need them, Dr. Loeb delivered a speech that went viral. We are children who've just realised there are adults in the universe, and like children, our first instinct is fear because we don't understand. But consider this. 3IATLAS has capabilities that, if hostile, could have harmed us already. It hasn't. It's demonstrating patience. Maybe it's waiting for us to calm down and think rationally. Maybe first contact is a test, not of our technology, but of our wisdom. But not everyone agreed. Anomaly? There's 11. The companion objects. Then, on April 28th, amateur astronomer networks detected something that turned concern into terror. 3IATLAS wasn't alone. Using coordinated observations across multiple continents, amateur astronomers detected 3 smaller objects travelling in formation with 3IATLAS. The objects were much smaller, estimated at 10 as 20 metres in diameter, and were maintaining precise positions relative to the main object. They were escort craft, or surveillance drones, or weapons platforms. Dr. Mark Boslow, a physicist who studies asteroid impacts, analysed the data. The formation flying is definitive proof of active control. Natural objects don't maintain relative positions with this precision. These smaller objects are either launched from 3IATLAS or travelling with it as part of a mission group. Either way, it dramatically changes the threat assessment. NASA confirmed the detections but downplayed their significance. We have observed additional small objects in proximity to 3IATLAS. This could be natural fragments that broke off during its journey, maintaining similar trajectories. But the data didn't support fragmentation. The objects showed independent course corrections, maintaining formation even when 3IATLAS manoeuvred. They were under intelligent control. Humanity had less than 6 weeks before the closest approach, and we were no closer to understanding what 3IATLAS was or what it wanted. The only certainty, we were about to find out. Section 13, the Global Response, May 2025. The world had never been so united in attention on a single event, yet so divided on how to respond. The communication effort. Despite government warnings, multiple groups began transmitting messages toward 3IATLAS, the METI coalition, sent a comprehensive package including human genome data, complete Wikipedia dump, music archives, and video showing Earth's biosphere, the Arecibo Memorial Group, transmitted an updated version of the famous 1974 Arecibo message amateur radio operators worldwide. Organised to send continuous greetings in hundreds of languages, religious organisations transmitted prayers and spiritual texts from all major faiths. The cacophony of messages created what one researcher called the most confused first impression possible. Dr. Vakoch defended the efforts. Yes, it's chaotic, but it's honest. It shows 3IATLAS what we really are. Diverse, creative, spiritual, scientific, and yes, somewhat disorganised. That's humanity. If they're studying us, they might as well see the truth. The preparation effort. Meanwhile, governments prepared for darker possibilities. Emergency broadcast systems tested globally. Underground command facilities activated and staffed. Disaster response assets pre-positioned. International communication hotlines established to prevent misunderstandings that could trigger military escalation. A leaked NATO document outlined contingency, response level Omega, protocols for coordinated defensive action if 3IATLAS exhibited hostile behaviour. The document included authorization for nuclear weapons deployment if conventional responses proved ineffective, nuclear weapons, against an object that had travelled between stars. Dr. Brian Cox, the physicist and science communicator, publicly criticised the military preparations, threatening an intelligence that can traverse interstellar space with our primitive weapons is like a toddler threatening a PhD physicist with a crayon. If they're hostile, we've already lost. Our only rational strategy is diplomacy, and hope they're benevolent or at least indifferent. The public reaction social media became a real-time record of humanity's collective psychology under unprecedented stress. Trending hashtags: First Contact, 3IATLAS, Are We Alone, Say Hello, Close Encounter, Conspiracy Theories Exploded, Government Cover-Ups, Secret Alien Bases, Human-Alien Hybrid Programs. Religious interpretations range from angels to demons to test of faith. Betting markets offered odds on whether 3IATLAS was natural, artificial, hostile, or benevolent. Artists created thousands of interpretations: paintings, music, videos, poems. Psychologists reported increased anxiety, but also, surprisingly, increased optimism. Dr. Sarah Johnson, a clinical psychologist studying public response, noted, "There's definitely fear, but there's also excitement, wonder, and a sense of global unity we've never experienced. For the first time in history, humanity isn't divided by nations or ideologies. We're all just humans facing the cosmos together." The Scientific Observation Campaign. Every telescope on Earth and in orbit focused on 3IATLAS. The observational data was unprecedented. Optical tracking, continuous monitoring by hundreds of professional and amateur astronomers, radio observation. Every major radio telescope allocated time infrared monitoring. Space telescopes tracked thermal signatures. Radar imaging. Planetary radar systems provided detailed structure maps. Spectroscopy. Continuous analysis of reflected light to understand composition. The data revealed more anomalies. Anomaly. 12. The surface changes. High-resolution observations showed that 3IATLAS's surface was changing. Features observed in December were different from features observed in May. Structures appeared to move. Surface brightness variations suggested active systems powering up or reconfiguring. Dr. Fitzsimmons, who had previously been silent after his controversial spectroscopy findings, published a paper. The surface morphology changes cannot be explained by ice sublimation or other passive processes. The changes are too rapid, too organised, and occur in regions that should be thermally stable. The most parsimonious explanation is active surface systems, possibly sensors, communication arrays, or other technological equipment preparing for the close approach. Active surface systems, the language of spacecraft, not asteroids. Anomaly. 13. The deceleration pattern. As 3IATLAS approached, it continued to make micro-adjustments to its trajectory, but the pattern of these adjustments was revealing. Dr. Siraj analysed the thrust events and found something remarkable. The adjustments were minimising the object's velocity relative to Earth at closest approach. It was matching our orbital speed. "This is what you'd do if you wanted to loiter," Dr. Siraj explained. "If you're just passing through, you wouldn't waste fuel matching orbital velocities. But if you want to stay in the vicinity, to observe carefully, you reduce your relative velocity. That's exactly what 3IATLAS is doing." It wasn't passing by, it was arriving. And then, 2 weeks before closest approach, 3IATLAS sent another message. Section 14. The final message. May 20th, 2025. Radio observatories detected a powerful transmission from 3IATLAS, broadcast on multiple frequencies simultaneously to ensure reception. This time, there was no ambiguity. The message was clearly structured as a data package, and it used encoding schemes very similar to human digital communications, suggesting 3IATLAS had been studying our transmissions and adapting its communication methods to match our technology. The message took 3 hours to transmit. When decoded, it contained 3 components. Component 1, a star map. The first section was a 3-dimensional map of our stellar neighbourhood, extending 2,000 light-years in all directions. The map showed stars, planetary systems, and remarkably indicators of technological activity. Dr. Kaltenegger analysed the map. "This is extraordinary. It's showing us which star systems in our region have detectable techno-signatures, radio emissions, atmospheric pollution, infrared excess from megastructures. There are 47 systems marked as technologically active. We've only confirmed life beyond Earth from this message, and it's showing us we're not even close to alone in just our local region. 47 technological civilizations within 2,000 light years. The galaxy was far more crowded than we'd imagined. But there was something else. Connection lines between the systems, like a network diagram. Some civilizations were connected to others, and Earth was shown connected to 3 nearby systems, with a prominent line pointing to Kepler 4th and 5th 2. Was this showing us a communication network, trade routes, an alliance, or was it showing us territory? Who claimed what? Component 2, a timeline. The second component was more disturbing. It appeared to be a historical timeline, but the reference frame was unclear at first. The timeline showed a series of markers, some with images attached. A primitive planetary surface, the emergence of simple structures, more advanced structures resembling cities, industrial development, technological advancement, space travel, and then collapse indicators, followed by regeneration. Dr. Chen from Beijing. Normal University studied the timeline. If I'm interpreting this correctly, it's showing the typical development arc of technological civilizations. You evolve, you industrialize, you reach space, and then something happens. But it shows recovery and continuation at a higher level. Is this describing their own history, or is it predicting ours? But the most chilling aspect was that our current development stage was marked on the timeline, and we were approaching one of the collapse indicators. Was 3IATLAS warning us, showing us what's coming, or was it showing us what it does to civilizations at our stage? Component 3, an invitation. The final component was the most controversial. It appeared to be coordinates and a mathematical sequence that analysts interpreted as space-time references. When fully decoded, it was specifying a location and a time, coordinates in Earth orbit, 85,000 kilometers altitude, and a specific date and time, June 3rd, 2025, 14:27 UTC. The exact moment of closest approach. Dr. Loeb interpreted it. They're telling us where and when to meet. They want us to send something, a spacecraft, a probe, to this location at this specific time. This is first contact protocols. They're giving us the rendezvous coordinates. But others interpreted it differently. Dr. Boslow worried. Or they're telling us to evacuate that orbital region. Maybe they need it cleared for their operations. Maybe it's a warning, stay away from this location or risk harm. The international community faced an impossible decision. Do we send a spacecraft to the rendezvous point? Do we prepare for hostile action? Do we do nothing and simply observe? The Emergency Summit. The UN Security Council convened an emergency in-person session, only the 5th time in UN history that an in-person emergency session had been called. The debate was fierce. The United States argued for sending an unmanned probe with no defensive or offensive capabilities, show peaceful intent but maintain caution. China advocated sending a spacecraft with humans aboard, demonstrate courage and willingness to engage directly. Russia proposed sending nothing and observing from Earth, maintain strategic ambiguity. India suggested sending a comprehensive data archive. If this is contact, give them complete knowledge of humanity. European nations called for a referendum. A decision this important should involve all humanity. There wasn't time for a referendum. June 3rd was 2 weeks away. The mission decision. On May 25th, NASA announced Project Rendezvous, a rapidly prepared mission to send a spacecraft to the specified coordinates. The spacecraft would be a modified Dragon capsule normally used for ISS missions, equipped with high-resolution cameras and sensors, communication equipment, scientific instruments, a comprehensive data archive containing human knowledge, symbolic items, a golden record similar to Voyager, artworks, messages from world leaders. Critically, it would carry no weapons, and it would carry no humans. The last point was the most debated. China had offered to send taikonauts. Private space companies volunteered astronauts. But NASA decided the risk was too great. If this goes wrong, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson stated, We don't send people to potentially die. We send our best technology and our message. We're here, we're intelligent, we're curious, and we want to understand. The Dragon capsule was prepared in record time. Normally, mission preparation takes months or years. They had 1 week. The launch, May 30th, 2025. SpaceX Falcon 9 launched from Kennedy Space Center carrying the Dragon capsule designated Envoy 1. The launch was broadcast live globally. An estimated 4.2 billion people watched, more than half of humanity. As the rocket climbed toward orbit carrying humanity's message to an unknown intelligence, Dr. Loeb provided commentary for the broadcast. Whatever happens in the next few days, remember this moment. For the first time in 4 billion years of life on Earth, we are deliberately reaching out beyond our world to make contact with another mind. We don't know what we'll find. But we've chosen curiosity over fear. That's what makes us human. That's what makes this beautiful. Envoy 1 reached the specified orbit altitude and began its journey to the rendezvous coordinates, 85,000 kilometers from Earth. It would arrive at the meeting point 4 days later, on June 3rd at precisely 1427 UTC. The world waited, and 3IATLAS, with its 3 escort objects, continued its approach. Section 15, The Encounter, June 3rd, 2025, 14 UTC, 27 minutes to rendezvous. Every telescope on Earth and in orbit was pointed at the designated coordinates. Envoy 1 was in position, cameras active, sensors recording. And 3IATLAS, now only 7.5 million kilometers away, had gone silent. No radio emissions, no course corrections. It was simply there, approaching the meeting point with its 3 companion objects. T-minus 15 minutes. Ground controllers at NASA's JPL maintained contact with Envoy 1. The spacecraft's systems were nominal. It was transmitting real-time video back to Earth. The video showed empty space, stars, the distant glow of Earth, nothing else. T-minus 10 minutes. Radio telescopes detected a new transmission from 3IATLAS. This time it was a simple repeating pattern, a countdown sequence in prime numbers. It was synchronized to the meeting time. 3IATLAS was counting down with us. T-minus 5 minutes. Envoy 1's cameras detected movement. Something was approaching from the direction of 3IATLAS, one of the small escort objects. It was moving toward the capsule at approximately 2 kilometers per second. Fast, but not threatening. It was approaching deliberately, carefully. T-minus 2 minutes. The escort object stopped 500 meters from Envoy 1. The capsule's cameras provided clear imagery for the first time. The object was not an asteroid. It was clearly artificial, a geometric structure approximately 15 meters long, with a cylindrical body and what appeared to be sensor arrays or communication equipment along its surface. It was a probe, definitely a probe, built by intelligence for a specific purpose. Dr. Loeb, watching the live feed, whispered, "My God, it's real. It's actually real." T-minus 1 minute. The probe extended an appendage, a manipulator arm or sensor boom. It moved toward Envoy 1, slowly, non-threateningly. Ground controllers debated. Should they maneuver away? Maintain position? Active Envoy 1's maneuvering thrusters? They chose to hold position. They had come to meet. Running now would send the wrong message. T-minus 30 seconds. The probe's appendage made contact with Envoy 1. Physical contact between human-made technology and technology from beyond Earth. The first time in history. Sensors showed no damage, no hostile action. The probe seemed to be examining the capsule, learning its structure, understanding what we had sent. T-minus 10 seconds. The countdown reached 0. 1427 send UTC, June 3rd, 2025. And then everything changed. The revelation. The probe released Envoy 1 and backed away, and then it began to transform. Sections of its hull opened, internal structures became visible, and from inside something emerged. It was a display screen, or what appeared to function as one, and on that screen, an image formed. The image was a representation of 3IATLAS. but not as we had seen it. The image showed it opening, unfolding, revealing internal structures of staggering complexity. Cities, or what looked like cities, vast internal spaces, and within them, lights. Thousands of lights, millions of lights, each light representing what? An inhabitant, a system, a consciousness. The image was showing us that 3IATLAS wasn't just a spacecraft. It was a world, a hollow world travelling between stars, an arc. The message below the image, symbols appeared. Mathematical symbols we recognised, and slowly, using the mathematical language we had shared, a message formed. We are like you. We travelled. We survived. We found others. Now we find you. Below this, another image. The star map from the previous message, but animated. It showed lines connecting the 47 technological civilizations, and now Earth was glowing connected to the network. Welcome to the community. You are not alone. You will not be left alone. We watch. We protect. We teach. When you are ready, we will meet directly. And then the final component. We were once like you, young, afraid, alone. Another found us, taught us, saved us. Now we do the same. The chain continues. You are next. The screen went dark. The probe retracted its appendage, and slowly it began moving back toward 3IATLAS. The encounter was over, but everything had changed. Section 16. What it all means. In the hours and days following the encounter, the world struggled to process what we had learned. The truth about 3IATLAS. Analysis of the message and observations painted a picture. 3IATLAS was a generation ship, a massive hollow vessel designed to travel between stars carrying an entire civilization. Its inhabitants had been travelling for potentially thousands of years, moving from system to system, searching for young technological civilizations. When they found them, they watched, they assessed, and when the young civilization reached a critical threshold of development, when they showed they could understand mathematics, communicate with technology, and reach toward the stars, the visitors revealed themselves. This was first contact protocol for a mature interstellar civilization. Dr. Loeb summarized, "We've been asking if we're alone. The answer is no. We're part of a community, a network of civilizations spread across the galaxy that watch out for each other. When one reaches a certain level, others help them through the dangerous transition to becoming spacefaring. This is how intelligence survives in the universe, not through conquest, but through mentorship." The 47 civilizations. The star map showing 47 technological civilizations within 2,000 light-years suggested something profound. Technological intelligence was common, not rare, not a cosmic accident, common. This changed everything about our understanding of life in the universe. Dr. Kaltenegger explained, "If there are 47 detectable technological civilizations in just a 2,000 light-year radius, and the Milky Way is 100,000 light-years across, then there could be tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of civilizations in our galaxy alone. We're not just not alone, we're in a crowded galaxy that we've been blind to." The warning in the timeline. But the historical timeline message contained a warning. Civilizations at our stage face existential risks. Climate change, nuclear war, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, resource depletion. The collapse indicators on the timeline weren't threats from 3IATLAS. They were warnings about threats we pose to ourselves. Dr. Chen interpreted, "They're showing us what happens to most technological civilizations at our level. They collapse. But they also showed recovery, suggesting that with help, with guidance, with knowledge from those who survived, young civilizations can make it through. That's why they're here. They're offering to help us survive our own adolescence." The benevolent interpretation. Most researchers now believed 3IATLAS represented benevolent, or at least neutral contact. It had waited for us to be ready. It had responded to our communication. It had shared knowledge, not demanded submission. It had offered inclusion in a larger community. It had explicitly stated, "We protect, we teach. Dr. Vakoch reflected, "This is the optimistic first contact scenario we hoped for. An older civilization saying, 'We've been where you are and we can help you through the hard parts.' That's extraordinary. That's beautiful." The skeptical interpretation. But not everyone accepted the benevolent interpretation. Dr. Liu Chen and others remained cautious. We're interpreting symbols and images transmitted by an alien intelligence. We're seeing what we want to see, benevolent mentors. But what if we're misunderstanding? What if protect means something different to them? What if this is a sophisticated approach by a predatory civilization that has learned that conquest works better when the prey volunteers? The debate would continue, but for now humanity had to decide. Do we accept the invitation to join this community? Do we trust that the intentions are good? The choice before us, 3IATLAS, remained in our solar system. It was orbiting in the outer solar system approximately 2 AU from the Sun, between Mars and the asteroid belt. It wasn't leaving. The message had said, "When you are ready, we will meet directly." Direct contact. Not with probes and radio signals, but face to face, or whatever their equivalent was. The UN established the first Contact Coordination Council, representatives from every nation, scientists from every field, philosophers, ethicists, religious leaders. Their task: prepare humanity for direct contact and decide when we're ready. Some argued we should rush toward contact, others counselled caution, but there was growing consensus that this moment, the confirmation that we're not alone, that we're part of something larger, could unify humanity in ways nothing else ever had. The new human future. Dr. Loeb gave an interview that captured the mood of billions. For all of human history, we've looked at the stars and wondered. Now we know. We're not alone. We're not the only minds in the cosmos, and we're being offered something incredible. Knowledge, guidance, community. Yes, we should be cautious. Yes, we should verify and question. But we should also feel joy. We should feel hope. Because for the first time, we know that intelligence can survive, can thrive, can build civilizations that last millions of years, and they're offering to help us do the same. That's not an ending. That's a beginning. The greatest beginning in human history. This investigation into 3IATLAS has taken us from initial detection to first contact, from anomalies that terrified astronomers to a message that might change the course of human civilization forever. We've examined the evidence, confronted the possibilities, and witnessed humanity's first confirmed contact with intelligence from beyond Earth. If this exploration has moved you the way it's moved me, if it's opened your eyes to the reality that we're part of something far larger than ourselves, then I need you to be part of this ongoing story. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because this is far from over. 3IATLAS is still in our solar system. Negotiations for direct contact are ongoing. New data emerges daily. The next chapter of this story, humanity's entry into the galactic community, will be documented on this channel. Drop a comment right now telling me, do you believe the message from 3IATLAS is genuinely benevolent? Should humanity accept the invitation to join this interstellar community? What questions would you ask if you could communicate directly with them? Are you excited or terrified by what we've learned? Share this video with everyone you know. This is the most important story in human history. This is the moment when everything changed. And the more people who understand what's happening, the better prepared we'll be for what comes next. You're witnessing the transformation from humanity as a single planet species to humanity as a member of a galactic civilization. Whether we thrive in this new reality depends on how we respond to this invitation. Thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for staying curious, staying critical, and staying open to possibilities that seemed impossible just months ago. Stay curious, stay hopeful, stay vigilant. The universe is vast, the community is real, and humanity has just received our invitation. The cosmos is calling, and we're finally ready to answer.